We hear it all the time. It's likely a friend has said it, or maybe you've said it yourself. I'm spiritual, but not religious. In our modern vocabulary, organized religion carries a heavy stigma. It has a reputation as a collection of rigid institutions and dusty dogmas that exist to stifle individuality and police behavior. Spirituality, on the other hand, gets the positive attributes. We frame it as something spontaneous, deeply personal, and authentic, an internal feeling entirely free from the red tape of a church. But this clean division introduces a mechanical problem. By stripping away all the structure and the tradition of organized religion, are we actually starving ourselves of the exact spiritual experiences we claim to crave? Modern seekers tend to operate on the belief that structure is the enemy of authenticity. However, history, psychology, and centuries of human practice point to a very different conclusion. To understand how this works, we can look at a qualitative study from Brigham Young University. Researchers interviewed dozens of adults to map how they perceive the connection between spirituality and God. When secular participants were asked to describe spirituality, they used overwhelmingly abstract language. They compared spirituality to the wind or to a vague energy, definitions that felt ethereal but were largely disconnected from any specific daily routine. The responses from Orthodox religious practitioners took a completely different shape. They defined their spirituality through concrete physical actions, describing their inner life in terms of what they actually did each day. This data visualization maps the division between being and doing. Secular responses manifest as floating abstract shapes. Orthodox responses form rigid, stacked blocks representing physical habits. Looking closer, those engaging in rigid, repetitive actions reported the most intensely felt personal experiences of the divine. Evidence suggests that spiritual depth does not materialize simply because a person is open to it. It appears to require physical, repetitive practice. Long before psychologists were collecting data, medieval Benedictine monks were testing this dynamic. They used repetitive structures specifically to try and access the divine. The Benedictine rule dictated a grueling routine. 8 times every single day, monks gathered to recite the Psalms, adhering to a strict, non-negotiable schedule. To the modern ear, this sounds like a nightmare. It looks like mere ritual, simply reciting someone else's words out of obligation. Early monastic thinkers like John Cassian viewed the ritual as the primary tool for engendering feeling. In this framework, the rigid structure provided the very means for an emotional experience to occur. This practice functioned as strict training. By constantly chewing on ancient texts, monks trained their nervous systems to eventually feel the exact fear, joy, and awe of the authors. These monks treated their daily schedule as a systematic way to prepare for spiritual connection. For the Benedictines, the strict rules weren't a prison, they were a method for chasing ecstasy. This historical reality clashes with our modern obsession with autonomy. The belief that spiritual truth must be discovered in complete isolation, generated entirely from within. Historical practice reveals a paradox. There is no inherent contradiction between engaging in a rigid, mediated ritual and experiencing an immediate, spontaneous feeling. Human beings are always shaped by their habits. By avoiding tradition to protect your independence, you don't become spiritually free. You might just remain unpracticed. Voluntary submission to a disciplined tradition is often what builds the internal capacity for a deeper sense of freedom. This only works if the effort is sincere. Mere ritual happens when a person performs actions blindly. Transformative practice, however, requires active, conscious engagement with the chosen structure. If you want a lasting, deeply felt spiritual life, you might have to actively adopt the very structures, rules, and routines that modern culture has taught you to avoid.